Hello, everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of Duet Reviews brought to you by Cup of Hemlock Theatre. I am your ginger co-artistic producer, Mackenzie, and I'm joined by the man who wears flannel better than anybody I know, but he's not wearing it today. It is the wonderful co-artistic producer, Ryan Borochovitz. Hello, Ryan.
Hello, Mac. It's funny that you insist on mentioning flannel even when there is none in sight.
I know. What can I say? What can I say? You rock it so well. You rock it so well. Well, let's get into this. So, we are talking about 4 minutes, 12 seconds, written by James Fritz, presented at Studio 180 Theatre. It was directed by Mark McGrinder and is running at Tarragon Theatre until May the 12th, 2024. And it stars a Canadian treasure. She has been to Avonlea and back and has become the quintessential girl with the carrots hair. It is the wonderful Megan Follows as Di. And we'll get into the rest of the cast as well, but she's kind of the big name that they've been heavily promoting with the piece. But Ron, before we dive too deep into this play, what is in your cup today, sir?
So we are recording this pretty early in the morning.
Yes, we are.
So I'm having coffee to get my start to my day, and I have this fun little travel mug with little slots on it. So that's
Cute.
fun. Yeah, it's the sluggish pace I'm feeling this morning.
I feel you. I feel you.
How about you? What's in your cup?
Let's see. I am drinking some of my usual tangerine grapefruit crystallite from my classic Stratford mug here, which says "For God's sakes, let us sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the death of kings." So I was like, oh, well, one of the shows are both just kind of are tragic, deal with death-related things. So
to clarify, when you say both shows, we are, for us, you and me, we are recording 2 episodes back-to-back in this moment in space. But anyone watching this would be confused by that because this is an individual episode on one show, 4 minutes, 12 seconds.
True. Yes. Correct. Yes. We will have another episode coming out this week. And so Ryan and I are doing back-to-back recordings, hence why we will not be changing our shirts.
Stay tuned for that.
Yeah, exactly. Ta-da! But anyway, let's get into this piece, Ryan, because this is the first one on the docket. And it was one that I really, really enjoyed. But for people who don't know what this 4 minutes, 12 seconds is about, because it's a relatively new British play that they brought over. So Ryan, what is this play about?
Yeah, so 4 minutes, 12 seconds is a tough play to describe because
without spoiling things.
Without spoiling it, yes. This is the non-spoiler section, and we will, after this and a general appraisal, we will go into a more detailed spoiler.
Yeah.
But they have said in the marketing for this show that it's best to go in knowing very little about it, and I would agree that that is the case.
I went in knowing nothing, and it was great.
So I guess the very short, as unspoily as possible version, I would say, is that it centers around a suburban, relatively middle-class, white married couple, Diane
in Scarborough.
David. In Scarborough, yes. So this is a British play, but I believe it was heavily Canadianized for this production because it is set in Scarborough, just on the outskirts of Toronto here, and which does have a reputation for being a bit of a rough and tumble neighborhood, and that is kind of factored in. I couldn't tell you what the actual setting of the original British version is, but I assume it's somewhere else, probably a suburb on the outskirts of London that is probably has a similar type of reputation. So Scarborough was a reasonable Canadianization thereof. Yeah. I assume. I have not read the original play, but knowing that the playwright is British, I doubt he was writing about Scarborough in Toronto. Yeah. And so we follow the central couple, Diane, played by Megan Follows, and David, played by Sergio Dzio. And we find out at the very beginning that their son, Jack, has gotten into some kind of trouble. That it starts with just that it seems that he got into some sort of fight or that possibly somebody attacked him. And in a very well-constructed clockwork, or possibly even an onion peeling away layers, we find out...
I say the onion's a good analogy.
Yeah. We find out more and more and more and more and question and think and rethink what exactly happened in this situation. And it's really all filtered through Di's perspective because she's the one who seems to have the less information about what actually happened. And
she's kind of audience POV, where she's learning as we're learning.
Well, and she is on stage in literally every scene of this play, pretty much from beginning to end. and we follow along with her as she gets new information and piece along. I would
Yep.
almost describe this as a detective story with a bit of an unconventional
Yep.
detective figure,
Yep.
where she is just trying to figure out what happened, and then once she has a good sense of what happened, what to do about it. But okay, we've been so vague so far. So what we kind of, again, without spoiling, we find out sort of that their son has gotten into some kind of trouble that involves his now ex-girlfriend. Her name is Kara,
Yep.
and played by Jaden Nasato.
Who's a
And
fellow Yorkie, just like us.
sure, but wasn't there at the same time as us, so that's
No.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that information. I guess she went to York.
She went to York. Shout out to that.
Sure. So so he's gotten into some kind of trouble involving his ex-girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend's brother, and their father has also been involved in this. Some sort of violence has occurred.
Yeah.
It also involves things to do with technology and
Yes.
maybe cell phones and recording. Again, I'm trying to be as vague as possible because I do agree with them that it is best to sort of go in knowing very little as possible. But it really is a bit of a crucible of the ethical concerns and questions of justice, right and wrong, retributive versus restorative justice becomes a very central piece in here without kind of getting into why. There are other themes that I think I would rather save discussions of until we're both spoiled.
Yeah, I think we've done a good job teeing up the story.
Yeah, in the vaguest possible terms.
In the vaguest possible terms, but it's really, really good. I mean, the reactions from the audience when you and I were there on opening night were great. I mean, there were people who knew nothing, and you could tell because of their genuine flabbergasted reactions when certain plot points are revealed as this onion is peeled apart.
Can we talk for a moment, even though this is doesn't have to be post-spoiler, but just talk about audience reactions, because I think this actually feeds pretty well into my general appraisal of the piece.
Okay, go for it.
This is a very funny play.
Surprisingly.
But until it very suddenly is not, is a way that I would kind of describe it. And the thing that I thought was interesting, because there was a lot of audience laughter, but I think more of it came from places of feeling uncomfortable than it came from genuine, this is so funny, jokes, I'm laughing. There definitely are jokes in the play, and especially in the first half of it. But it's funny, my own reaction, there were many times when I laughed, especially during the first half, when it still is kind of good humor in a lot of ways. And I was the only one laughing thing, not in a disruptive, oh no, I'm drawing attention to myself, but I had an audible smirk when nobody else was laughing. And there were other times when the whole room laughed at things that are very patently signaled as jokes, where I don't actually find that very funny. And I think that is sort of interesting about, at least speaking to my own reaction, but I think a lot of people will have a similar reaction. You will laugh at things that maybe aren't supposed to be jokes, and you might find yourself disturbed by things that are clearly signaled to be jokes. And I think that's a testament to the writing. This is a very tightly written, tightly constructed piece. It knows exactly what it's doing. It has a lot of things on its mind, and it has a really great way of exploring them. And it really does kind of, I was leaning forward, genuinely physically leaning forward at certain points.
Oh yeah, you did. You were leaning in.
Yeah, I was grabbing onto the armrests of my seat at some points. This is a bit of a white knuckle ride, barreling towards a very, I won't even say surprising conclusion, because part of what's interesting about this play, and they've been very clear about this, is that it's more about raising questions than it is answers. And by the time we get to the conclusion, which we'll talk more about post-spoiler, there's, I guess, a bit of more of a seething frustration than anything. But that I'm very happy when a play does that, and I think there's a lot of exciting things about the journey along the way. Sorry, I've been talking a lot. What about you? Any general appraisal thoughts you want to get into?
I'll jump right off the humor thing, because I think, for me, what made me have moments of levity was not that, you're right, it wasn't a yuck fest in there, but it's the humanness of and the naturalness of this dialogue, that it's I felt I was watching my parents talk sometimes, of just something like that. Which Nick was it? Was it Nick this one, or Stupid Nick? Stupid Nick. Of course it was Stupid Nick, things like that, where it's just those quick little barbs, or little, or just little looks that they can give each other, or just the way that the Sergio as David keeps falling into these bear traps repeatedly throughout the story. in his conversation, especially in that first scene where he's really trying to keep everything under wraps from his wife. Because
Mhm.
like I've seen my dad do similar conversations where he's like trying not to say something because he goes, "It's not my place to say something," but then I know something, and it's like one of those things where it's like, you go back and forth on that, where it's like you're trying not to say something, but at the same time, by not saying something, you're saying something which then gets you into a deeper trap. So it's like really well done. Like it just felt so natural, and
Yeah.
I think this dialogue was very sharp and quick, but also extremely realistic and natural. Like it didn't feel theatricalized. It felt
Mhm.
very human, and I think that really does help, especially when the story does take the really heavy turns. It takes really does keep it grounded. It doesn't make it feel like it's theatrical, soap opera, extended Degrassi level of storytelling. Where like I could see a similar Degrassi story happening with this plot, and it could become very
Mhm.
schmacky and soap opery. And I think once again, it is definitely held down by a really strong cast, not just by Megan, but by Sergio and Jaden Nasato and
Yeah, Tavari
Tavari. So yeah, sorry,
Davis, who we
Yeah,
haven't
yeah,
named yet, but is also really good in this. We'll talk about each of the actors in
yeah.
turn as
We
we
will,
go post
we will.
spoiler.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
think
But
to
Tavari as well. Like all four of them really are a well honed, well oiled cast as a unit together who have a lot of really dynamic scenes. And I mean, Megan says this is her big come back to Canadian theater. And I mean, what a way to come back. I mean, she really is a scene stealer anytime she's on there. And it's one of those things where like you've seen this person like on your screen watching her as Anna Green Gables, but then you're seeing her play a very different role. So when she's making certain character choices at the end, it's like, oh,
like for the record, I know we all know her as Anna Green Gables, but that miniseries came out in the like 1985, I think. Like
yeah,
it's been a long
yeah.
time since.
It has been a long time, but it's one of those just
Yeah.
iconic
Yes.
performances that like even my coworker who like went and met her at Fan Expo because she's such a big fan was like, "Oh my god, you're seeing her again. That's just incredible." So like
Yeah. It's
she's just one of those people that is just
yeah,
wonderful that way. Either way, I
Canadian
will
treasure.
say, I mean, like coming out of this piece, the first thing I said to you was like, it's almost like the British version of Doubt.
Well, you called it the Canadian version of
Well,
Doubt, and
yes,
then
because
I
first,
pointed out to you that it
yes,
is
yeah, yes,
Canadianized for this production, which is
Canadianized, but yes, this
mhm,
does feel a lot like Doubt, where it's like you have a situation, you don't get to meet the main character of the situation because the
mhm,
son is not shown at all.
mhm.
We only hear about the son. We have everybody else around them talking about them in this situation. Just like in Doubt, where we never get to meet the boy.
Mhm.
I forget this. I forget the child's name.
Oh, yeah.
Either way, Mrs. Mueller's the mom. So Kiddo Mueller.
Yeah.
Um,
Dan? I don't
Daniel.
remember.
I don't know. Something like that. Either way.
We are
Point
cutting
being
all of
is like,
this.
yeah, either way. Point being is we don't get to meet the kid, but we get to hear a lot about the kids. There's a lot of similarities there and kind of the back and forth warring dialogue you have between David and Di is very similar to like a Sister Aloysius and his name
Conflict.
Father Flynn. Yeah, there's a bit of that push and pull that they have. Ryan's giving looks.
Well, it's not that I disagree with that. I just feel like that's getting dangerously close to spoilers. So maybe
All right.
go see this show, people, because
Yes, go see
it
the show.
really
You and I are both
is.
saying go see the show. It was really well done. I mean, the direction
Mark
by
McGrinder,
Mark
yeah.
McGrinder was just terrific. I mean, such a well honed piece where the pace they hit the stage and they don't stop. In that like 85 minutes because there's no intermission flies. Like you are going nonstop. And this was one of those shows where like you and I've talked about it in theater etiquette where you see people fidget, get out their phones, have their phones go off. And that did not happen. There was not a sound, there was not a ringtone that went off. Nobody's phone lit up. You could tell everybody in the audience was actively engaged in the story. And I think that's a real testament to how powerful and strongly compelling this piece is, where nobody feels distracted or the need to distract themselves.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So should we
Yeah.
get into spoilers? Like because we've been
Yes,
dancing
let's
around things we want to talk about, so let's do
yes,
it. I
let's
think.
do it. Let's throw up our spoiler shirt that will be appearing
Yes.
on the screen. A nice bloody dress shirt that is shown just as it's shown at the beginning of the play,
Mhm.
and it is now up and at 'em. So Ryan, Where do
Yeah.
we want to start
Okay,
with
so
this?
now that we're post spoilers, can we just do a better job of describing the plot of this play?
Sure.
Because I think that will be helpful. Because I
Yes.
recognize that not everybody who watches post spoiler is necessarily somebody who's
But if
like
you
gonna
are,
stop.
by all means, welcome aboard.
But yeah, like and some people, people watch these episodes long after the runs are ended just because they want to
Sure.
hear about the show. So yeah,
Sure.
so let's actually do a better job of describing this play.
Sure.
So their son Jack has gotten into a bit of a scrap with his ex-girlfriend's brother, Little Jason, and their father is
Yeah.
Big Jason.
Yeah. Both kind of
Because
thuggish, apparently.
because a video has surfaced online, a sex tape that was made between Jack and Kara. And it seems as though Jack and Kara have recently broken up. And now,
which Di did not know about.
Which did not, yeah, well, Di doesn't know any of this. We learn it all with her, and it is in the first scene we make like 16 different discoveries, but wait, there's more. And so nobody is quite sure how this sex tape got online, but like 500,000 people have seen it. It went viral. And Kara is alleging that Jack has sexually assaulted her. And that, in fact, we don't find this out until a little bit later, but the very evidence of that, or possible evidence of it, is the tape itself, the very thing that went viral. That, of course, the parents are reluctant to want to watch because it's their son having sex. Why would they want to see that? Remember that.
Very Law and Order SVU.
Sure. Good frame of reference. But so this is very much what we at first seems like a parable for the Me Too era. It's her word against his. He insists he didn't do anything. She's saying he did. She comes from a bit of a rough and tumble family that will not go to the cops with this kind of thing. They will rather handle it themselves. So Kara has told her brother and father what happened from her perspective. And the inciting incident is that her brother socked Jack in the face. That's what made his shirt bloody. And now they're afraid to let him go back to school because it could just be a matter of time until more violence is brought about him, and it could be very unsafe for him to walk around the world. So Di and David have sent him to live with his aunt in a different town.
Yeah.
Now, we have our very unconventional detective here of Di, who enters the story knowing that her son is a good boy, that he would never have done the things that Kara is saying he did, and wants to just set the record straight so that her son, who we'll get more into this in a bit, but who it seems, whether or not he would graduate from high school was a bit of a question mark. So he doesn't have to keep
question mark because he's missing so much school because he's away. There's kid who has done very good. And they moved him to the private school. Yeah. So he can have a better chance at a better life.
Well, exactly. There's more to the kind of background of why he's at the private school, the background of the parents that we'll get into more because I think that's very interesting. But yeah, so they need to make sure that he graduates high school. That is a big goal for especially Di. So because he's missing so much school out of fear for his safety, Di wants to kind of resolve this. She's also very worried about what this will do to his reputation, to have this hanging over him, have it be the first thing that comes up when anybody Googles him. Right. She wants to just set the record straight and have all this cleared up because she knows that her son would never do what Kara is saying he did. And we're post spoilers now, so I think we can safely say that it's pretty likely that he did indeed rape Kara. And the video itself is the best evidence of that. And when Di does eventually watch it, it seems pretty incontrovertible, and other pieces of evidence surfaces over the course of the play. So what originally starts as my son is innocent, and of course all of this is blown up or vindictively set against him. Anyone can say anything, and they'll always believe the woman. Turns out there's often pretty good reason to believe the women, the victims in these kinds of situations, because it seems very much that what she is alleging did indeed happen. And then much of the second half of the play is Di grappling with how do I respond to this? What do I do if my son did the bad thing? He should be held accountable for it. But how do I do that while also grappling with the deep personal feelings of, this is my son and I still love him and want him to have a good life and be well, but he can't go unpunished because that's gonna make him realize or think throughout his life that he is immune to consequences.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of really juicy stuff in here. That's not even all of it, but anything you want to chime in from anything we've discussed so far?
I mean, just once again, Megan's portrayal of Di playing detective and the reaction she's getting as she's peeling this onion back were just incredible and heartbreaking.
Mhm.
But then also she becomes a bit like kind of like the mob boss at the end when, now that we're past boys, we can say she basically puts a hit out on her son, basically saying like, I'll give him to you after he graduates for 20 minutes and you can beat the shit out of him.
20 minutes, no weapons, nothing on the eyes or genitals. So it's not quite a hit out on him. She is insisting that he survive.
No, on hit. She just has, just like a good mob boss does, she puts rules in place for her deal. Just like how in The Godfather, Vito says, St. Clemenza, he's not going to get carried away. He'll know the line.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, her reactions to discoveries and her just watch in the moment where she watches the video and it's just a spotlight on her face is incredible. Because once again, we never see the video, nor do I want to see the video, because it just sounds horrible. But it's one of those things where you watch her reaction, just from her reaction alone, it definitely tells you that this is not a situation where one could just argue of they were kids, it got carried away. No, this play does a very good job of, once it's like painting a very clear picture of the girl could not consent because her mouth was covered. It was a very forceful, or at least appeared on camera to be very forceful, which is why a lot of people absolutely could interpret it that way. It does point out that we don't hear the before or after conversation. So we are literally getting 4 minutes and 12 seconds of time. So we are getting just what people are reacting to from the video, but from the video, they make it very clear that consent, at least from the video, is seen as not given. Her mouth is covered, like there are bruises, and also apparently the son is now email harassing the girlfriend as well.
Yes.
Which doesn't bode well in Jack's favor of pinning of clearing his name. So it definitely is. So definitely, it gives very much a pass to Di to say, nope, he absolutely deserves to get his ass beaten, because obviously she doesn't want the police. Neither does the other family. So like, the play does a very good job of constructing the situation where Di going to Kara to say, hey, I will give him to you and your family for 20 minutes is not the biggest stretch of the story. There's another plot point that we're going to get into with another character where I think they jumped the shark a bit.
Okay, I strongly disagree about that. I'm looking forward to fighting with you about it.
Okay.
Okay, but before we get there, anything else you want to say? Since you've already started talking about Megan's performance specifically, let's maybe use this to go through the cast.
Yeah, sure. I'll just say overall, once again, she is just someone who just naturally played this character and filled the space. She played it very real and authentic. Like, just, you felt like, I was watching, I was like, I feel like I'm watching Pam from The Office, just the way they dressed her, having a very tragic story taking place around her. And it was just so natural. And yet she also found humor in this. Like, just like, one of the great scenes is with her and Nick outside the house, where she's kind of playing detective and grilling him really hard. But it's kind of funny because it's like a mom detective type thing where like she's trying to be intimidating, but is she really being that intimidating? Not really. She's more being mama bear. So I don't know. I saw overall she played a really good balance in this. I mean, she tries to make the ending work with that final scene with her and Nick. I don't think the play quite gives it to her, where like she did her best with what she was given. I think the play itself trips a bit at the end, but that's not on her. That's a bit on the material itself, where it kind of ends on a bit of a weird note. So yeah, I think overall she, once again, she's on it for every scene, and she is a real glue that holds this whole piece together. So, but let's get into this other plot point, Ryan.
Wait, okay, you want to do that before we talk about the rest of the cast, or do you feel like
well, I think we can talk about Sergio and that plot point, since it's
okay.
I'll talk them together.
Can I maybe start by just praising Sergio before you get into the thing you didn't like? Because yeah, like obviously, yeah, Megan's fantastic. Everybody, I think a
Yes.
lot of people are coming to see her, and yeah, Jessica is she's great. She
Yeah.
is yeah, this perfect sort of blend of serious detective and cringy suburban mom in a lot of ways, but she does go through this emotional ringer. So
Mhm.
fantastic across the
Yeah.
board. Honestly, though, even though she is the glue of this piece and something that probably will, her star power will get a lot of people to see it, Sergio is the MVP of this production, in my opinion.
He has a lot of legwork to do in this.
Yeah. And okay, so yeah, Sergio is a fantastic actor. I've seen him perform at Coal Mine many times. Most recently, he was in Rockabye. We reviewed that here.
Yeah.
That's showing up on the top of the screen
Yeah.
now. He played this like weird coke-addled agent character in that, which was very funny. And he brings a lot of similar energy to this role. But it's something you talked about earlier in the writing, how like this kind of reminds you of your parents, the naturalism of the dialogue. It's yeah, there is, and this kind of goes to Megan and Sergio's relationship and how well they built that together, and it feeds into the writing too. But there's like a lot of really great shorthand between them.
Yes.
They don't need to finish every thought, but they're on a very good wavelength. They have a lot of history, both on the page and these two actors together, regardless of whether or not they'd ever even met before the first table read of this. Like they did a great job of building that history into their relationship. And like, yeah, this is a high context relationship that isn't worried about will the audience follow. It's more important that they can follow each other, which I think is really, really great. And yeah, and Sergio sells so much of that by just like, yeah, the way that he awkwardly cuts himself off. And what is so amazing about this performance is, and this I think will get us into the thing you want to talk about, is that he knows what happened from the very beginning, his character. And it is through his piecemeal revelation of information first to Di that he's constructing the version that sets her on a particular journey while full knowing what actually happened. And like that's always just such a great thing for an actor to have as a playground when your character has a secret that will be revealed by the end of the play, but you have to think through in those early scenes, how do I not make it obvious that I'm hiding something, but also letting what you know inform all your decisions. And I think, yeah, Sergio's, I would love to watch this show again. I probably won't get around to it, but I would love to watch this again, knowing what I know about it and like meticulously studying every twitch, every movement that Sergio makes, because I think this is a masterclass of that kind of acting when a character has a secret and he does it so well. And he's, okay, one of the big themes of this piece that I was reluctant to name in the non-spoiler section is toxic masculinity. And of course, it's maybe obvious how that fits into the sexual assault plotline that governs so much of this. But where that theme really comes to a head is in Sergio's character, David, as the father, the tree that the apple doesn't fall far from, the block that it chips off of. He is... It's funny, we'll talk more maybe about why we never see Jack, but I think we do see Jack. We just see what he'll be 20, 30 years from now. And that is David. Like this is, we get this perfect telescope into who this kid is and who he will eventually become and how pathetic that person is, even though circumstances transpire that allow him to feel like he's on top of the world. Because the world belongs to him, because nobody will ever hold him accountable for the bad things he does. And speaking of bad things he does, what do you want to talk about?
Well, first, I will say Sergio as David is so compellingly, wonderfully twisted in this show, because he is playing so many more levels and facets. Like, Di is a very 407 highway straight through, like, she has a lane and she's just driving in that lane. Like, she's got her very clear A, B, C, and D of the story, which is discover the situation, investigate the situation, react to the situation, resolve the situation. David and Sergio is trickier. It's more like cutting through Toronto versus taking the highway to get through Toronto, where there are so many more left turns, right turns, left turns, right turns, U-turn somewhere in there too, where he has to play not only bumbling dad, but also incredibly insecure, like traumatized man from childhood who was scrawny, meek, person who is feeling the ramifications of that bullying and is and has internalized that pain in not a healthy way. Also, someone who is trying to be cooler than he is, as well as trying to be the cool guy, trying to be the Mr. Rogers, be the all for one good dad, when really he is stuck in a cycle. And then also, I do think he loves his son. I think he has genuine love for his son. So when he says, "I am trying to protect my son," I do believe that.
I believe it, but I think because his son is him, and I'm not saying that undercuts his role as a parent, but they are cut from the exact same cloth. And if Jack faces consequences for what he does, David knows that he must also face consequences for what he does.
Yeah,
and that's terrifying.
So let's get into what David does.
Okay.
Yeah, because that is the big crutch or left turn of this piece. Is throughout the whole show we have been left in the dark of who uploaded the video. At first we say it couldn't be Jack. He wouldn't do that to himself. Then it's stupid Nick or friend Nick. We say Nick vehemently denies it. And we believe him once we actually meet and talk to Nick. So then it's left, who could have gotten this video? Who could it have been? As we've come to find out, it was David who uploaded this video on his Maple Leaf Guys page, where they share apparently illicit materials. The fucking Leafs, as Di says. Love it. And speaking of the Leafs, they're in playoffs right now and not doing so hot. So it was perfect timing. It got a great reaction of the audience.
Yeah, serendipitous.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it was probably some football club in the original play.
Probably.
Yeah.
But so David's the one that releases the video. I do not like this plot point. I don't think it works because David seems way too smart for this. Where by releasing this video, well, first of all, it's just weird on so many levels.
It's weird. I'm not denying that.
No parent would ever release a video for of their child having sex. Like, that's just weird on one level. Second level, they're both underage. By him releasing, that is distribution of child pornography. And nothing in the piece has given me any inclination that David is on that level. I would have much rather have believed it if he had said, "I saw the video on my Maple Leaf fan page. I'm not the one that uploaded it. I've only ever uploaded the pictures of Di that we kind of set up earlier on in the piece that they took on their trip up to Collingwood or whatever they said they went." Like, if he, because they had set those pictures up earlier, so I was like, oh, that's going to come back somewhere where it's revealed that just like his son, he has uploaded or shown these pictures around somewhere. The son picked up a trait from his dad. That's where I thought that was going. I did not see the dad being able to upload the video there. I just felt that was such a line too far that for someone who loves his son so much, I could not believe that a parent would ever upload a sex tape of their son, because that is just a line way too far. It is so illegal on so many levels that it's not like it's on like a dark net website where nobody's going to figure out who it is. No, this is the one that probably says username David 24601 on this Maple Leaf fan page. They all know who he is. And he's uploading a underage sex tape. And that just felt so wrong and so far out from what he did. And I mean, I know they try and set it up earlier by him say it was me to Kara, so that I'll take the heat and not Jack. But I still go, yeah, this just seems too far for a parent to be willingly wanting to upload their child's sex tape.
Okay.
I think it would have been better if it was shared on this forum and that's how he saw it. And he didn't tell Di that he saw it. And then Di goes, "Well, what else is on that forum?" And then she goes, "Are the pictures of us on that forum?" And he doesn't say no, which then inadvertently makes it a clear of yes. And then it's left still vague of who uploaded the video. Because I think the mystery of who uploaded the video is a fine one to leave vague, because that's not the point of the story of who uploaded the video. It's more of what was in the video, And how do we deal with Jack, who was in the video, clearly assaulting someone? Having it now be David being the one that uploaded the video creates a whole new level of complexity that I don't think was needed. So I don't know. Ryan, thoughts?
Okay, I strongly disagree with literally everything you said. Which
Go
is,
for it. Good
no,
agree.
okay,
That's the
the
joy
one
of
thing. Okay, the one thing I don't necessarily disagree with is I get where you're coming from, you specifically, when you say that it feels far-fetched that a dad would do this. In real life, yes, but this isn't real life. This is a play.
But the play's played so naturally, though. It's not played.
But I also don't think just because it feels far-fetched and because you, with your good moral compass, would never do such a thing, I don't think that gives you the right to say that nobody would do such a thing. And I disagree with your opinion that he's too smart for this. Not because I think he's necessarily dumb, but the reason why he releases it is pride in his son. That's what he says. And part of why I think he doesn't even register that he is literally distributing child pornography is because he watches that video and sees that my son is a man. That is the thing he takes away from it. Like that, and yeah, and he's in this toxic masculinity fan page, for lack of a better word, where people show raunchy stuff like that. People have probably showed similar things, and he's just like, he doesn't bat an eye at, like, look how cool my son is. He's a man. Look at the kinky sex he's into. That, and you mentioned things about like the photos of him and Di, like why that's brought up isn't to set up that those are going to be leaked too, or that he leaked those, but it kind of serves two functions. Is that it's implied that maybe they're back, when they were more sexually vibrant as a young couple, that the two of them, David and Di, had like a bit of a kinky streak and did things that maybe from the outside looking in might have looked like they were of dubious consent, but of course they were consensual, and that's a valid kink thing, which gives David the plausible deniability that no matter what, in the absence of the beginning and end of what happened before and after the clip, that 4 minutes, 12 seconds, he can easily deny, whether he believes it or not, to himself and to others, that this was just kinky, consensual sex and my son did nothing wrong, because I've done things like this, and I would hate it if anyone saw pictures or things that I made in the past that would, think the same horrible things of me. This is just what it's like to be a man, to be a sexually virile man like me and my son. That's where he's coming from here. And it's sorry, okay, you said so many different things that I wanted to respond to specifically. But so, yeah, I don't think he processes this as releasing child pornography. I feel like maybe if we wanted to assuage some of the things that you were thinking of, I could envision a slight rewrite of this play where they're both 18, just to prevent it. Like, I'm not saying that, it does add interesting ethical parameters that they are legally children. But if you're worried that, that alone should have tipped him off that he shouldn't be doing this, then, I don't know if we need that additional element of the child pornography at all. It's still completely ethically and probably illegally dubious to share this kind of thing of someone else.
100%. 100%. Even if they're 18, sharing somebody else's sex tape is absolutely illegal.
Yes, exactly. So I don't know if we need
it's an invasion of privacy.
Also children. If they could have both had their 18th birthdays, imagine a long list slipped in there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, once again, if they'd aged it up, then maybe I could be more on board, but I still find it very hard to buy into David willingly uploading his son's sex tape. I get what he's going for with, this is a man, and they set this up really well. This was a man that was bullied, particularly by Kara's family. Throughout his whole life, he was not the jock. He was a bullied child who was constantly trying to prove his own masculinity. And so him uploading the video is a way to fit into this crowd that he has found himself in on this as a toxic masculinity make-believe website.
Yeah. And this is why I think, I get why you find it far-fetched, but I think it's, quite frankly, wrong-headed to say that this is the play jumping the shark. This is what the play's about. This is the beating heart of what this story is. This isn't just doubt. This is kind of, in many ways, not every way, but this is better than Doubt and maybe even more
I
thoughtful
would
than
agree with
Doubt.
that.
Like, I'm not even saying, like, it takes time to really settle with a play and
Yeah.
think about like all of its merits, but like this has something very different on its mind and what when we find out what happened there, that is what this play is about. It is about these cycles of toxic masculinity and the way that men behave badly and see themselves as the righteous good guy. Our son is a good kid. It's not, regardless of whether or not we have irrefutable proof that he isn't, that this is his father has created this culture for himself where even with that pretty undeniable reality, he can still think that he's a good kid because I was a good kid. I am a good man. My son is a good man. This is what the play is about. And the ways that Sergio like turns implicitly violent when Dai is like thinking of calling the cops and be like, if you
that
put
moment is
down,
scary. That's a
or I will
genuinely
stop
scary
you.
moment.
Yeah, because and that's the thing, like I believe that both Dai and Megan could take both David and Sergio in a fight. Like
absolutely.
He is a weenie of a man, and I say that like
it's true. Well, we see that because he has the ripped shirt, right?
Where, yes, of course. No,
they've set it up well that he would not fare well in a fight.
Yeah, but just the fact that he feels vindicated in that moment to say, put the phone down or I will stop you. And we don't know what he has in mind with that, but he's pretty much clearly threatening violence, physical violence on her.
Yeah.
And, part of it is because he wants to protect his son. A lot of it is because he wants to protect himself. But at that point, it hasn't quite been revealed how much skin in the game he really has here and how much he really is at fault. But, he still thinks he's a good guy, even when he says that.
Right.
This is what the play is about. It is putting David, not Jack, but David under a microscope, and we can make some pretty good conclusions about the absent Jack based on what we see. And that, like, I get why you feel like it might be far-fetched, but I think it is just, like, it is a shallow reading of this play to say that this doesn't belong in it. This is what the play is about. So sorry, there's so many like other parts of it that I feel like I want to talk about or could say. I know we have other things we want to get to. Sorry, I feel like there was something specific. Maybe we'll come back to it. I don't know.
Okay, we'll circle back if you think of other things. But overall, once again, like David or Sergio as David is such a terrific performance, and like it's just you and I are disagreeing a bit on the plot point of a few things there about David. But overall, though, he's a fascinating character. And honestly, I thought when we got to the end after Di's found this out and she's figured out what to do, I thought she was going to give David to
Jason.
Jason Sr., Jason Jr. take the beating for his son.
That would be something, but I don't know what it would
like that's where I thought it was going originally. But then she sells out Jack instead.
So
sorry.
Sorry, finish your thought, but I remember the thing I really wanted to talk about.
Go.
Okay. It's a scene that I think is really fascinating, and yet this goes back to the brilliant thing about both the writing and Sergio's performance is that he knows what's true before we get to find out it and before Di finds out it. And the kind of interesting dialectic between these two central characters is that he wants to know and expose the truth, but doesn't know what happened. And David knows what happens and wants to conceal it. And that is like a perfect character butting heads tension right there.
Absolutely.
But the scene that I think is like such a potent example of that is, you alluded to this earlier, when he suggests that, why don't you tell Tara that I was the one who released it before we find out that he actually did.
Yes.
Because that is the most conniving thing he does in this entire play, because that is a way that he can confess to what he really did,
without actually having to confess to.
Well, but it's more complicated than even that, because he can confess, actually, like, let the truth be known in the world, protect his son by taking the fall for what the bad thing he actually did, but still have his wife think he's a hero, a martyr for doing this, for falling on his sword for his son. And that way she never has to find out that he actually did the thing the world will think he did. Right. That is so icky and brilliant. And I hate him. And I love it. This is amazing. This is such good playwriting. Oh my God. Sorry,
Yeah.
that was the
No,
thing
I agree. I mean,
really
I mean, once again, that scene there is so well done because it plants a seed in your head of why would he bring that suggestion up? What is going on here? But then you throw it out going, no, he could never be the one that, did this to his son and Kara. Like he could never actually be the one that uploaded the video.
Mhm.
But then
Well,
he
it's such
is.
an absurd thing when he
Yeah.
suggests that, we have the same thought that you still
Yeah.
have, even after we find out, like, what
Yeah.
father would do that? And then I
Yes.
think after we find out what father does it, it seems pretty plausible,
Yeah.
actually. But when he proposes it, like, it just seems like so absurd that they're never going to believe that. That's so stupid.
Yeah.
And then, but because that's actually what happened. And, like, honestly, like, if I have one minor fault, but I don't know how to get around this, is that because it's so absurd, I think it's a little too quick that Di figures it out what really happened. Because she's like, it was weird that you keep, like you said, it plants the seed in your head, but
Yeah.
it didn't actually occur to me for a second when he was
Mm-hmm.
proposing that would be the case. Like, I thought it actually just was the noble thing that the father's trying to do for his son.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's
then
what I thought too. I thought it was the noble thing. Like I did not see the David twist of him being the one that uploaded it.
Yeah,
coming.
and I think that twist works really well.
Yeah.
I feel like we maybe needed a bit more of a slip up from him that tips her off, because I think
Yes,
she just
like-
comes to that conclusion too organically on her own.
Yeah. I mean, like once again, if they had set up earlier, because they had the whole conversation about the photos they took on their trip together, the racy photos that he has, that he knows where they are up in the attic, because he keeps saying they're up in the attic, so he knows where they are.
I'm sure he looks at them weekly. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, why not? It's your photos.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's wrong for doing that, but he was like, "Oh, I don't even know where they are." Of course, you know where they are.
Yeah. But if there had been something there in that conversation, because she asked him, did you ever show or share it? If he had slipped up there and had shown that he was someone who was willing to share things of his own, because that's the same thing. Like you don't share photos of your wife in a sexually compromising positions. That's your private thing. So if they had set that up more, of yeah, no, he has shared those photos, then maybe I would go along more with that, with him being the one that uploaded his son's.
I can get behind that
as well. And I mean, I also think, yeah, age the kids up to being both 18, ready to graduate. Then I think I would be A-okay with the David twist more. I think because they're underage and because we don't quite see the smarminess until it's right at that turn at the end. I think that's why there's a bit of a, not saying I don't like the twist. I do think the twist is very compelling, and it greets and it gets a big reaction out of the audience when it does show up, which is great. That's what you want as a play. You want it to be the twist that's going to throw the whole piece in a whole new direction. It's great that way. But I think we make those two slight twists to the story, I think it would firm it up a bit more.
And I can definitely get behind because he mentions the pictures enough times, that if we did confirm, preferably early on, that he has shared those photos, because we also find out in the first scene with Nick, the thing that starts getting Di questioning her son's unquestionable
is that he
morality.
shared pictures of Kara.
Exactly, that like, he's not above this. And then once she starts suspecting that, maybe Kara's claims are accurate, she starts hoping that he released the video, because if he did indeed rape her, then that would be something that he would never be so stupid to release it if he knew that he did that wrong thing. So having David, like, and that's the thing, we don't know that he hasn't shared those photos.
True, I think
it's his word against anyone.
Those photos onto.
But if we maybe had an indication that he definitely did, that maybe would solve some of the credibility problems that you're raising here.
Yes, yeah.
But
because once again, if he's already voyeuring those photos around to people, then it's like, okay, this guy clearly, if he has no problem showing very intimate photos of his wife, then okay, I could kind of get on board with him once again trying to gain street cred by showing this 18-year-old sex tape.
Yeah, it's like, even if we don't find out earlier, like if he still denies sharing their personal intimate photos earlier, if once we find out about this, that he was the one who released the sex tape, if he also Di's like, did you share our photos on that site too? And if he, kind of is forced to admit that yes, he did, then that maybe would.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yes.
it's not our job to script doctor this
Yeah.
play,
Yeah.
but I think it works really well how it does. But I'm not necessarily against some of these minor tweaks to maybe assuage some of your reality problems, because I think. Yeah, I definitely don't want to lose this twist, not just because it's a great twist, but because it does retroactively, and it does retroactively reveal what the play has been about all along. And like, to say that it doesn't work or jumps the shark feels to me like a misreading of the play itself.
Fair. But we do have two other people in the show, so we haven't really given them their due yet. So let's first talk about Jaden Misato.
Yeah.
As Kara, who, once again, another great performance. I've seen her in a show at Fringe. There was it was in our first year that we did our Fringe roundup. It was the Irish band piece. We'll have to put a link up top there.
Okay, yeah. I didn't see that one, so I can't call it.
No, but she was a standout in that production too. It starred the actress who had originated the role of Kim in Miss Saigon in Toronto as the mother in that, and she played kind of the best friend role. So she was great in that. You and Joe would have seen her last summer in Midsummer Night's Dream up at Shakespeare in the Park.
Right, yeah, she was in that. Yeah.
Yeah, she was. Yeah. So she definitely is working through the city, and I think this was by far my favorite performance I've seen of hers out of the two I've seen from Fringe in this. Such a good performance. So compelling, because this is a role that can become very caricaturish, very like, oh yeah, she's kind of the girl who comes from, the rougher street family, she wears the clothes with the crop top. She has the image about her. She's a bit standoffish, that classic high schooly Degrassi character, but she plays it, but like the vulnerability that comes in the scene at the end is really what sells her performance, which is the scene of Di coming to her saying, "I will give you my son. Just let him come home and graduate first." And her thing of, why 20 minutes? How did you come up with that number? The video is only 4 minutes. 15 would seem like you were just, trying to be nice. Half an hour is too much. We could do too much damage. So you must have chosen 20 because it's like that perfect middle ground. And just her calculation of this, and then her tragedy of that moment of, I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
The damage is done. My body, my image is forever connected to that video. There is no escaping that. You cannot reverse this course of action. I cannot go to the cops because my family will not let me go to the cops. I cannot get justice that way. You give me this pity justice of, let us beat up your son for 20 minutes with guidelines. Its own fucked up, weird way of things that just doesn't work either really for me. Like, you feel her defeat in that moment, that genuine human defeat of what does she have in this trauma that is going to follow her forever. And the pain of that is so well done. That seething anger she has underneath, where at first you think she's being a bit high schooly teenagerish of, screw you, mom, like, that type of energy. But then as you dive deeper into who she's, the trauma that she is suffering through and is living with, it's so well felt and is so well performed. It's well done. It's such a well done performance. I don't know, Ryan, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I can completely agree. It's nice to agree about something. No, we agree about
we agreed about a lot in this.
I know, but yes, we are on the same page about the cast. Everyone is incredible at this. Jade is no exception. She does a fantastic job, with this very difficult role. The thing that I think is really interesting about the character, and she sells this so well, is the very first time we see her, before we really know what's happened, we just have this idea that she has accused Jack's pristine image of doing this bad thing. That, it's a girl who cried wolf kind of situation is how it's framed very early on. And when Di first sort of chases her down to interrogate her about it, which is a reasonably upsetting situation when your rapist's mother is trying to harangue you into dropping your accusations. That's such a fucked up situation to be in. But one of the very first things that Kara says is, "Back off or I will scream." And right off the bat, and the way she says it with the look in her eyes before we really know what exactly happened, Di is our POV character. And seeing this from her perspective, that line only vindicates what she already believes, Di, is that this is somebody who will just say, help, help, I'm in danger.
Yeah.
People have done bad things to me. They're harassing me. They're assaulting me. And from Di's perspective, that's like, yes, you are exactly affirming exactly what I believe about you.
Mm-hmm.
But then once we know what actually happened, that's a pretty reasonable thing for Kara to say and do in that moment.
Yeah.
That, this person who I definitely don't want to talk to, whose son has hurt me in innumerable ways, is, getting all up in my face. I cannot deal with this. So I will use what little power I have, which is claiming that, pretty reasonably claiming that, yes, I'm being harassed by this person.
Yes.
That it works so well because the way she delivers that line both makes sense from what Dottie thinks of it and what we later find out Kara indeed thinks of it. It's so perfect. And then, like you said, that monologue at the end is such a scene-stealing moment that, going to
it's kind of like the Viola Davis scene in Doubt, where it's like
very much
the one scene where it's only till June.
It's only till June. But like having to go toe-to-toe with Megan is probably a challenge for any of these actors. But
absolutely,
to steal the scene away from her, as Jaden does in this moment, is a feat. And the heartbreak of this character, that there was literally nothing that you can do. The thing that you've come up with literally is a pretty interesting, smart proposal that
it's not a bad one.
Under different
twisted as all hell.
It's very twisted, and Kara's right to point out that it is indeed effed up. But at the end of the day, if the police will not bring justice, and if we don't think what he did is necessarily worthy of the death sentence that little Jason might bring upon him, that this could be the good compromise. But at the end of the day, retributive justice is not real justice. It's not actually gonna heal the wounds. So what does this accomplish? And if it's so important to you that he get out scot-free of this, then you might as well just let him do that. And that's what the ending leaves us with. And it's like, sort of getting far away from Jane here, but the way she delivers that monologue just hits all those gut punches. Even if you didn't come into that theater thinking that retributive justice is a false start. I would hope that people with skewed senses of morality and ethics around these things maybe learn something from the emotional weight of this monologue and the way she delivered it. So very fantastic. Great performance.
I mean, just such a great performance, such a scene-stealing performance. Of the minute this story starts, you're wanting to hear Kara's perspective. You're wanting to meet the character. So the build up to finally getting to meet her is great. And then I was like, I want more scenes. I want more scenes with Kara's perspective. I want to see more and get more perspective from her, because she's such a fascinating performance and character that I'm just like, damn, I want to hear more and see more from you. But then we have the next wonderful cast member, which is Tavari Daniel Sims as Nick, who is originally classified as Stupid Nick.
He's not stupid at all.
He's not stupid at all. I think he actually is a very wonderful character who, I think he does very good. I think Tavari did a great job with a character that could kind of feel like the fourth string of the show, where it's like, did we need the scene? I'm sure there are ways where you could write this around as a three-hander and not have Nick as a character. But I think having Nick as a character gives Di further validation into what's going on, because having two people besides David say things about Jack and really paint Jack in a less pristine, he is my baby boy image, like the fact that Nick sets up of, no, I liked Kara first, but Jack swooped in and took and then
let's say love blocked, for lack of a better word, because he actually there's something very pure about how Tavari
first I thought they were going to play that Nick was gay and that he wasn't interested in Kara at all in this way. That's why he was never interested in the videos or the photos. Like, he was just there as a friend, like had no relationship interest at all in this. He was a true third party person who just went, not me, not interested, just seeing what I observed. This is what your son's been doing. The extra element of, no, I did have feelings for Kara, and she is not who you think she is. She is smart. She is not just X that you see her as. She has all these other great qualities that not even Jack apparently saw in her as
Mhm.
well. I think paints him in a much more complex, wonderful light there too. So, but once again, like this was such a great thing. But I will say, I think the final scene is a bit of a clunker scene. Not saying that Tavari is the clunker in the scene.
No,
That's
definitely not.
he does great with what he's given. Once again, the play itself, choosing to have this random grocery store scene at the end, or
Mhm.
pharmacy shopper's drug mart scene, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
where like he's like, oh yeah, and Jack went off to McGill, and he's going to be becoming a politician potentially.
Well, which I think that's very important to the play that we have that
Yes.
revelation. I agree that I think playwriting wise,
Yeah.
I think the first scene with Nick is essential, and the
Yeah.
playwright probably felt like I need to give Nick at least one more scene to justify having an actor fill this role. So, and that's why
Yeah.
I think it is set in the grocery store and that is filtered through Nick's perspective. I love the revelation that Jack is going to grow up to be Brett Kavanaugh. That is just like
Yes.
factually
That's what I
what this
thought
play
too. I was like,
presents
oh
us
great,
with.
another smarmy politician.
Yeah. And yeah, like, and it is so fitting that he got into the good school. He's studying political science. He's going to probably be a politician, and he
Yeah.
will never face the consequences for what he does. He did, even if down the line it gets revealed again, he is still pretty visible in that sex tape that could
Yep.
haunt his political career down the line. But
Yep.
as we see time and time again, these men don't face consequences for any
Yep.
of this. So I love that revelation at the end. There might have been a more elegant way of revealing that, but I understand dramaturgically wanting to give Nick more to do, and
Right.
I don't envy the playwright for having to think about how to thread that needle. So, did you want to say more about Tavari's performance? I have thoughts, obviously, but please.
No, I mean, once again, I just think once again, it's another. I mean, I got there right before curtain, so
Mhm.
I had only seen the cast image here of 4 people,
Mhm.
and so I thought that like Tavar was going to be playing the Jack role, the son role, and
Mhm.
they just did a racial blind casting and just went,
Or possibly
"This is
even
the
adopted again.
adopted son, whatever."
Mhm.
Like like he was going to be the son character. This is the girlfriend character, and we got
Mhm.
mom and dad.
Yeah.
But then it's like, nope, he is not playing the son. We will never get to meet the son. Instead, we will get to meet a similarly named character of Nick, not Jack, there. So,
Mhm.
so yeah, but I
Yes.
think once again, like he does a great job in that first scene with him and Megan is so well done because once again, she's playing detective on him, and just there's the threats that she throws at him that and the fact that he is a BIPOC performer and you have this white middle-aged woman going, I'm going to cut your little dick off, you
Mhm.
know, it definitely gives off Karen in the park vibes, like you saw in that
Yes.
Central Park infamous video during COVID of the woman crying assault in the
Mhm.
park against this innocent black man. So,
Mhm.
like having the scene like on his doorstep, basically,
Yeah.
as she is harassing him, telling him, no, you are the one that took the video and shared it around. You did this. It was like, oh, Dad, we're not painting you in a good light, girl. You are like getting smarm all over you for this. But then obviously she relents and does end up turning sides. So,
Yeah, yeah. Like I guess, yeah. You said most pretty much it all. I just think yeah, Tavares
yeah,
really does a lot with what could become a thankless role, and I think it's
yeah,
because of his performance that it doesn't become as
yeah,
thankless as it could be. He just brings such an earnestness and a sincerity to this character, and but with also like a good amount of like reasonable rigidness because we only really
yeah,
see him in the context of either interrogation or also a situation where in the later scene where the customer is always right, she kind of it's pretty bold of him to be
yeah,
as like barbed and rude as he is to a customer. But yeah, it's he has this rigidness, but he does so much with his face and tone of voice
mm-hmm,
that like yeah, he's able to stand perfectly still and still I think
yeah,
communicates the nuances of his character and the depth. And there's literally nothing about him to communicate stupidity
yeah,
that it almost becomes like a racial microaggression in its own right that they just assumed he's stupid because what he plays video
right,
games with their son. Like that's like he's done
yeah,
nothing wrong and has done nothing to convey this. That it just it's the depth that he brings to this possibly thankless but small character here
mm-hmm,
just really does cast a lot of interesting ways that we think about the people who are quick to brand him as stupid or useless
right,
or contributing nothing to society. And at the end of the
mm-hmm,
day, he doesn't get to go to university like Jack does. And Jack has a lot more reason to should be withheld from that. But of course,
Yes.
we're in Scarborough. I think there's a lot of indications about some rough and tumbleness across the board, some poverty that it probably just never even seemed like a likelihood for Nick that he would even have the opportunities that Jack is given. I think there's just so much here. Like, this play is such a piece to unpack. Yes. And the performances, all four have been excellent job. Couldn't love this cast anymore.
Yeah.
Cool. We've been going long. I know there's other things we've alluded to wanting to talk about.
I think we covered everything, though. I mean, like, overall, though, this is a solid piece. I mean, I would dare say, even though I don't quite get on board with David's actions in the twist, I still love the twist, because I do think it definitely gives a good shock to the audience, because you don't quite see it coming. But I do think this is easily going to become one of my favorite plays. And I mean, if we ever revive Play Book Club, this would be a play that I would absolutely recommend us do.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. If ever that happens,
If ever that happens, down the road. But like, this would be a play I would love to see perform more, because I think this is a great piece, and I would love to see like high school drama classes study it and do readings of it.
Oh, yeah. Well, and because it's two-handers across the board, like, this would be great to extract scenes for acting classes. Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, this has easily become one of my favorite plays that I would tell everybody to go to see. Like, I came into the office the next day on Friday after seeing this on Thursday night and was just buzzing with nothing but good things to say. And you and I were out last night seeing another show that we're going to be talking about. But even then, like, after that show, one of the things we were saying to our friends there was, go and see this play as well, because it's just so good. And I mean, I wish it had a longer run. And I mean, I can, because the set's so simple. I mean, we didn't talk about much about the set designer or anything like that, but I'll give a quick shout out to our
Jackie Chow, the set and costume.
Yeah. Jackie Chow did set and costumes, did a great job with that. Logan Cracknell.
Another Yorkie.
I was about to say another Yorkie, who's
yes, we did. We didn't plan this one.
yeah, and then Lion Smith as well. Like, the whole production did a great job putting this piece together in a very simplistic way, with only 2 entrances and exits and a little kitchen upstage. But like, it's such a well done piece that I was like, you could take this on tour across Canada and do a really good job with this play.
Oh, one thing about the set, and then we can wrap up. But it's funny. Shortly while we were waiting for the show to start, we were talking about, representing people and their complexity, and you mentioned shades of gray as something that your history teacher imparted upon you as like the way of dealing with complex morality of figures. We don't need to get into what got us onto that topic, but something I love about the set is that we have our 2 doorways in each corner of the stage, and this V kind of connecting them on the floor. And that V starts in a very dark gray and turns white in the center. And on the very floor where these characters are walking is a gradient of the shades of gray and moral complexity and things not being black and white that is presented on the very ground they walk on. It is undergirding everything that we see on stage.
Well done.
Good job, Jackie Chow.
Yeah, love it. But there we go. All right, let's sign off on this one.
Okay.
But we will say that 4 minutes 12 seconds is presented by Studio 180 Theater, is running at Tarragon Theater until May the 12th, 2024. Get your tickets. This is going to be a hot one, because everything that's been coming out of this show has been nothing but praise all around. So I'm sure this will be this show hasn't sold out already, because it is a smaller theater. So tickets will go quick on this one. So I will say, get on out there, get your tickets, because it's a good one. This is one that will stick with you and make you go, like, get some really verbal reactions out of you. So there you go. Ryan, before we go though, give us that classic Ryan Borochovitz send-off we all know and love.
No point finding and following me personally, but if you like me and my theater thoughts, they tend to live here on the Cup. It's Cup of Hemlock Theatre in YouTube. It's Cup of Hemlock Theatre podcast in the podcast places. Follow us at COH Theater on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Not calling it the other thing. And just, like, share, subscribe, enjoy these theater thoughts, and check out this production, because it is really good. It's running until May 12th. Hopefully it gets extended, but with a rental venue, that's not always likely. So, it's a good one. You have our emphatic recommendation here. Indeed. How about you, Mac? Where can people find and follow you?
Follow me at Mackenzie on all social media platforms. You also can follow my other Theater Antics over at Before the Downbeat, a musical podcast where both Ryan and Jill have appeared on several episodes. And we, just because we just released this episode and we're releasing this next week, when this episode comes out, is we just released our episode all about La Cage aux Folles, which we did an episode similar to The Birdcage on here. But yeah, no, Scott and I have a great conversation all about representation, and we also get into the whole concept of queer representation between different generations and how that affected the writing of the piece. So it actually was originally over 3 hours of content that I had to cut down to under 2 hours, and then by the time music got added back in, it was about just a little over 2 hours. So
okay, wow.
But like an hour and a half of content got sliced out of that episode. So it was juicy episode. There's a whole other cut episode that is existing on my hard drive.
So if anybody's currently working on the Stratford production that's upcoming this summer on this very play, perhaps you have a lot of research material you could check out there that could inform your perspective on it.
Absolutely. Stratford, hit me up. I'll have to come down and do like a pre-show chat with people. It'll be great. But there we go. All right. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you all in our Friday episode, which is all about the play Tyson's Song, happening over at Factory Theater. All right. We'll see you then. Until then, everybody, stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you all in the next episode.